Lonely Monk Productions.
All right, let's do it.
Welcome to the Too Old, Too New Music Discovery Podcast, the podcast that every week brings you something old, something new, something Nate, something Bruce. The premise is simple. Each week we bring you two songs apiece. One new song that's been spinning on our metaphorical turntable platter, and one old song that we believe still absolutely matters. I'm Nate Runkle, host of the Yo That's My Jawn podcast, and with me, as always, is my good friend Bruce Warren from WXPN. Bruce, how are we doing this week?
What up? Everything's good, man. I'm exhausted, though. I got to tell you, honestly, I'm exhausted. You know why I'm exhausted, Nate?
I think I have an idea.
Because I have spent endless hours listening to this new Taylor Swift record. How about you?
Very much so, which is why I am very excited to let the listeners know that for 1 week, we are going to enter the Tortured Poets department full time, and we're going to bring you two new and two old Taylor Swift songs, because that's what the discourse wants, all right? The algorithm asks for it, and we will provide.
It sure does. It sure does. I'm telling you. That's all I've been listening to pretty much for the last week. So I guess without further ado, why don't you go first?
Okay.
Do you want to hit something new first?
Let's do something new. It's fresh. It's
fresh.
It's on our
Exactly.
minds. So for my new from the Tortured Poets Department anthology from the large one, which is for those who don't know, Taylor released the Tortured Poets Department and then 2 hours later said, "Just kidding. Here's a whole shitload of more songs." And that version is the anthology. And from that, my first pick for something new is So High School by Taylor Swift. So let's hear a little bit of that right now.
I feel so high school every time I look at you. I wanna find you in a crowd just to hide from you, and in the blink of a crinkling eye, I'm thinking our fingers entwined, cheeks pink.
All right. So that's So High School. And here's the thing about me, and it's something that I've realized in the past few years, and that is I have an addiction to the sound of 90s guitars, especially if there's a female vocalist on top of it. And to me, No High School could fit in with any of the kind of resurgent tracks, you know, your Last Dinner Party, your Bully, your Blonde Shell. It's got that kind of guitar-y vibe from the 90s that I absolutely adore. This track, produced by Aaron Dessner, he and Jack Antonoff kind of split production duties. Aaron's tracks are mostly on the anthology back half, but this song just absolutely screams to me, and I love everything about it. From that, and not just musically, like the lyrics are as titled So High School. Like it just kind of evokes that kind of sensibility.
Yeah, it totally does. You know, to give you an example of how much Taylor Swift like almost immediately impacts the zeitgeist of, the youth of today. Somebody said to me the other day, I was at work and I made a comment and they said to me, "That is so high school." And I just cracked up. Like I knew exactly what they were talking about. So, instantly this song is, working its way into the vernacular. But here's a question for you. I think Taylor drops, American Pie. There's a lot of brand placement on this record,
yes.
So on this particular song, American Pie, and I think she also mentions Grand Theft Auto. How many Taylor Swift fans do you think have actually seen American Pie? Do you think American Pie's numbers like spiked up on whatever video services there are out there today?
1,000%. And beyond that, and this is somewhat anecdotally, I'd like to see the numbers, but Dead Poets Society, I can't tell you how many posts I've seen of people saying, I've never seen Dead Poets Society, but based off of this, I'm going to go watch it. So yeah, I'm sure there's the downloads of Grand Theft Auto, of Charlie Puth, of American Pie, The Starting Line, our local emo faves, The Starting Line. There's
That's
so
right.
many references on this album, and I gotta think every single one of them woke up Friday morning and was like, well, what's going on?
What's going on? Right. Right. Exactly.
What do you got for something new?
Yeah, we'll go into something new here for sure. Talking about the many pop culture references that you just mentioned, I'm thinking a song for the mentioning of an amazing band from Scotland called the Blue Nile. And if Taylor would not have put the mention of either the band or the song Downtown Lights, the band is the Blue Nile, and the song is Downtown Lights. If she had not put that in the, narrative of the song Guilty as Sin, I probably would not have picked this song. But I'm telling you, as soon as, those are the opening lyrics, right? She sings, drowning in the Blue Nile, he sent me Downtown Lights. I was immediately, because I love that record, I love that band, I was immediately brought into her world on this song. So we're going to roll with this new one, Guilty as Sin, from Taylor's new record.
Drowning in the blue Nile, he sent me downtown lights. I hadn't heard it in a while, my boredom's bone deep. This cage was once just fine. Am I allowed to cry? I dream of cracking locks, throwing my life to the wolves or the ocean rocks, crashing into him tonight.
It's awesome. Guilty as Sin from Taylor's new album. And I have to tell you, I think this is Taylor Swift mid-tempo perfection, this song. It just hits all the sweet spots of why Taylor Swift is so amazing.
She is a pop perfectionist, and her talent and skill at crafting the melody line of a chorus that'll just hook you, whether you've heard the song or not. It sounds like an old friend, and this song is exactly an example of that. It's so perfect. Working on this. So I listen to music mostly in my car, sometimes at my desk at work. But working on this, putting this episode together, I listened to a bunch of these songs on my headphones for the first time. And the production on this, it's easy to overlook. But to me, I think this album might be a headphone masterpiece, and Guilty as Sin is definitely one of those songs that feels so much better in your headphones.
Yeah, it doesn't work too hard. From the production perspective, I agree with you, Nate. It doesn't work too hard to be what it is. And I think that's sort of the brilliance of working with Jack Antonoff, working with Dessner. These guys have made unbelievable records, over the last decade plus. I think there's elements of the album, like the two songs that we played today, So High School and Guilty as Sin. I think they sort of are good representations of two sides of the Taylor Swift musical experience. Now, I can't remember, and this is a problem right now with the record because it's too freaking long. Are there dancey tracks on the record? I can't remember.
Not really. And, speaking to the length, that's one of the things I've really been challenged with this release is how do you judge this? Do you measure the 16 songs that were released that are on the vinyl, right? That are on the initial project that came out? Or do you look at the anthology as a whole piece? I saw someone recently refer to it as if we already got Taylor's version with the vaulted songs, and these are the vaulted songs, and it made it make kind of more sense to me that her fans want this, whereas it's a bit, like you said, it's really exhausting to have to go through 31 tracks, 2 hours, and also have a life. No offense to anybody who eats this up.
Right. Exactly. And my first sitting with it, I did a similar thing with the Taylor record that I did with the Beyonce record when it came out. I woke up super early before I had to go to work, and I literally just sat with the album in the foreground while it played. But I actually stopped at this at track 16 because I wanted, to your last point, like I wanted to hear the album, as opposed to the anthology. And also by track 16, it was time to go to work. You know what I mean? So, but I have subsequently spent more time with the anthology pieces of it than the first, the proper, if you will, the proper album. Because I still don't remember if there was a dancey song on the record.
Well, so, it's funny you mentioned that because, like I said, the anthology stuff is mostly the Dessner stuff, and one of the things that, like, I feel bad for saying this because I love him so much, but I feel like the Jack Antonoff Taylor Swift partnership needs to take a timeout. Because there's a bit of sameness that's kind of blurring, that kind of came at the end of the folklore era and into Midnights and now this. And, she says this is kind of the end of a chapter and the start of something new. And I kind of hope so. But this definitely feels like it was for the fans. Like it was.
Yeah, it was definitely for the fans. You raised a really good point about the sameness of it. Which was a point addressed really nicely by one of the two critical reviews of this record that I actually read, and I'm referring to specifically here the Pitchfork review, which bragging rights, I have to say, was written by a person named Olivia Horn, and when Olivia was a University of Penn undergrad, they were an intern of mine here at the radio station, so I'm very proud of Olivia. Olivia's review was spot on, I thought. And then the other review that I read, the genius Ann Powers, their NPR review, sort of gave us a different look into the new album. So, like, have you read anything that sort of caught your attention that you want to suggest people should check out?
So one of the things I was telling Bruce before this started, one of the things I've been reading a lot of is not critical review, but more fan review. And there's a gentleman who is a documentary filmmaker named Malcolm Ingram. Okay. And he directed a film called Small Town Gay Bar, which is a brilliant documentary about a small town gay bar. But he is an enormous Taylor Swift fan. And he kind of rejected this album as much as he likes it musically because he says it's lyrically mean, that he feels that it's kind of punching at people who can't punch back. Because of a lot of the relationship stuff, which I respect him saying, but I can't think of any other artist who is ever taken to task for writing a negative song about their ex. I mean, we champion Stevie Nicks for singing Silver Springs right in Lindsey Buckingham's face because it was fucking awesome, right? But for some reason, Taylor Swift kind of does not get kind of gifted that kind of benefit to be able to have heartbreak. And I feel like one of the issues with her kind of revisiting this, and it's part of the sameness, is the fact that as a billionaire, there's very little that resonates with humans anymore for her, right? Except for love and heartbreak. So the fact that she's trafficking in this, it to me is her still trying to write music that resonates with regular people, which I admire. Like I mean, like it's her one piece of connection that still exists.
Yeah, very insightful, Nate. See, this is why we talk about music. You're a fucking smart guy, dude.
I try.
I love that. Okay, so wait, I wanted to say one more thing. Which that I did read, and actually I read it this morning. So there's a great band from Philadelphia called the Tisburys, and the lead singer Tyler is very good on X, formerly Twitter. And I loved his tweet this morning. It said, "Taylor is in her human touch Lucky Town era," and I immediately got it because being like the world's biggest Bruce Springsteen fan. Let me tell you, that was like he trusted his fans when he released those two records, and I was there for every song that was on those two records.
That's unbelievable.
So, that's a great line, right?
It's an amazing line.
Great line.
I'll tell you what, and it kind of doesn't work on the timeline, but when Taylor Swift is ready to do her Nebraska, sign me up because that's really what I want from her. Post the Tiny Desk performance that she did, I really just want her and an acoustic guitar, and I want that album. Maybe a piano. I'll take a piano, but she's an incredible songwriter, and I think sometimes it gets lost in the sauce.
Bring on Taylor Swift's Nebraska. That is
right.
That is a super, like, whoa. I can't even imagine that. That would be pretty awesome, actually.
And I think she could do
Wow.
it. I think she could pull it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me something old of hers.
All right. Something old. So I picked this song. 1989 is, in my opinion, the best Taylor Swift album. Okay. New Romantics on that record is a freaking banger. And it's like, when I first listened to the record, that was the song that jumped out immediately and grabbed me. And to this very day, it still grabs me. So let's check it out. New Romantics. It's T Swift from 89. Heartbreak is the personal anthem.
Oh my God,
love
it's
that.
so good.
It's such a great song. Do you know? Every time I hear this song, it kind of reminds me of Foster the People's Helena Beat.
Yes,
do you know
I
that
do
song
know that
at all? Check it out. Check it out. You can feel the energy. Anyway, great song. And what do you got? Something old.
So my something old is actually not available, so it's not going to show up on our Spotify playlist. So I'm going to replace it with her song from the Hannah Montana soundtrack because that's just who I am. All right, but my old is actually from the CMT Awards, and it's a thing that she did as a spoof with T-Pain, and it's called Thug Story. And I'm just going to play it, and then we'll kind of get into it.
I'm like 8'4", blonde hair to the floor. You shorties never thought I dreamed about rapping hardcore. No, I ain't got a gun. No, I never really been in a club. Still live with my parents, but I'm still a thug. I'm so gangster, you can find me baking cookies at night. You out clubbing, but I just made Carol delight. T Swift and T-Pain rapping on the same track. It's a thug story. Tell me, can you handle that? I had a dream last night. I had hot top nights.
Yeah. So that's Thug Story. All right. Now, the story behind this is she's actually kind of distanced herself from this. T-Pain has distanced himself from it because they both feel like they were taking something out of the culture that they shouldn't have. Right. And look, I am not the culture police, and I'm not anything. All I know is when this happened, this is what made me a Taylor Swift fan in the beginning. OK. And it's because one of the things I love about Taylor Swift is she is a goddamn goofball. All right. And she just owns it. And it's one of my favorite things about her. I don't know if you remember the Apple Music ads that she did. There's one where it's her rocking out to Jimmy Eat World's The Middle. And there's another where she's listening to, I think it's like Drake and Future. And she's on a treadmill, and she ends up falling and busting her face open and stuff like that, but then gets back up and starts rapping again. The fact that she has the ability to kind of mock herself and doesn't take herself seriously, that was the first thing that kind of hooked me. And so Thug Story just fills me with joy because it's just so funny to, especially if you see the video, which I'll link in the notes. You'll be able to click it and watch the video. It cracks me up.
It's great that you chose that. It reminded me of like the song parodies from SNL.
Yes.
Or The Lonely Island. That was good. I didn't know about this. That's pretty cool that you chose this, actually.
The cadence of her rapping, it's funny you mentioned The Lonely Island, totally reminds me of Natalie Portman's Natalie's Rap.
Oh yeah, right.
With the no questions, which is phenomenal. But yeah, so that's our Taylor Swift discourse for you. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I say, do you suggest? I mean, like you dig the album. Would you suggest people listen to it, check it out if they're into that sort of thing?
Heck yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like I said, I've heard people say that it's just for the fans or something like that. But I think the core piece of it is great. And there's so many songs that we didn't even talk about. I had Down Bad on here, which is another favorite of mine. The Tortured Poets Department, which is the title track of the album. There's not bad songs on this. But as much as you might hear sameness, and you might even find sameness, that one thing that you hear is pretty good.
Yeah, that's the point. I mean, that's exactly right. like I'm a super fan of a bunch of bands, right? And there are times when I just go, okay, I'm oversaturated, right? But I am going to attempt at some point. So a few years ago, Charlie Hall, who was the drummer of the War on Drugs, does this really cool thing on his Spotify. He takes really long albums and boils them down to like one single great record. And he calls this feature that he does addition, EDITION, by subtraction. Okay? So I tried it. The last Drake, I'm a huge Drake fan, as you probably know. I did it with the last Drake album. I think there were 20 plus songs, and I boiled it down to what are the 10 or 11 best songs on the Drake album. I'm going to attempt, now that I've spent a fair amount of time with the new Taylor record, I'm going to attempt to come up with my own sort of hypothetical, 12 song. This would make for the most epic. It would be, 11.0 if Pitchfork were reviewing this record. Let's just put it that way, right? So anyway, I'm going to attempt to do that. And if I get there in the next week or two, we'll make sure everybody knows about it.
Definitely. I'll also challenge you to do that with Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 because I find it to be impossible.
A great example. Perfect. Great example.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, thank you for joining us again. If you want to find anything out about us, you can, like and subscribe to this podcast. You can follow us on the socials. I'm at That's My Jawn on all of them. Bruce is at Some Velvet Blog on all of them. And you can catch Bruce's radio show from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. See, I remembered this time. Every Saturday, you can catch me on Why Not Radio from 5 to 8 every Monday. And of course, you can listen to the That's My Jawn podcast wherever you get podcasts from. Bruce, thanks as always for doing this. And I can't wait to talk some more music in the future.
All right, Nate. Good hanging. See ya.
Too Old, Too New with Nate and Bruce is a Lonely Monk production, produced and hosted by Nate Runkle and Bruce Warren. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on your podcast provider of choice. If you have any music you think we should hear, or if you would just like to reach out to us, please feel free to email us at tooldtonewmusicpod@gmail.com. And as always, thanks, and we will catch you next time.